はじめまして。隣いいですか？
え？ちょっと何するんですか？恋人じゃない人にこういうことする。
So, has anyone watched the Japanese version of Nevertheless or Marry My Husband yet? Because the takes are wild. Some people love them, some people hate them. And the rest of us, we're just trying to figure out, are these remakes an upgrade or a downgrade nobody asked for? Let's get into it. Here's the thing. Remakes aren't new. They've been part of drama culture forever. In fact, a lot of classics didn't even start in Korea. Take Playful Kiss. Most fans remember the 2010 Korean version with Kim Hyun-jung and Jung So-min, but that story actually began as the Japanese manga Itazura na Kiss. From there, it became a 90s Jdrama, a Taiwanese hit, the Kdrama we know today, and even a Thai remake. Same story, reinvented again and again. And then there's the heavyweight champ of all adaptations, Hana Yori Dango. If you're a drama fan and you haven't seen at least one version of it, are you even a drama fan? The original manga gave us Japan's Hanadan, Korea's Boys Over Flowers, Taiwan's Meteor Garden, and Netflix's glossy 2018 reboot. That one storyline basically birthed an entire subgenre. The cold, arrogant rich boy, the stubborn poor girl, and the messy love triangles we still can't get enough of. So yeah, remakes aren't unusual. They've always been part of Asian drama culture. Stories get passed around, tweaked, and retold for new audiences. If it works, then it works. And it goes both ways. Korea has remade plenty of Japanese dramas before. But lately, the spotlight's shifted. Japan has been quietly rolling out remakes of Korean hits, and that's what's sparking all these new conversations. Fans can't help but compare the two versions, which brings us to a much bigger question. When they remake a K-drama, are they actually improving it, or losing the very spark that made the original so powerful? And that brings us to the two shows that made this whole debate impossible to ignore: Nevertheless and Marry My Husband. Okay, so if you haven't watched both versions of Nevertheless, or if you've only seen one, fair warning, minor spoilers ahead. Nothing too wild, but we're gonna get into the differences, and you'll want to be prepared. So, Japan's remake of Nevertheless is titled Nevertheless, The Shapes of Love.
はじめまして。隣いいですか？
え？ちょっと何するんですか？
On paper, it's the same setup. Girl meets guy, falls into a situationship that's confusing, frustrating, and maybe a little toxic. But in reality, it plays out completely differently. Not just in tone, but in how the characters behave, how the story moves, and what kind of feeling it leaves you with. First off, the setting change is huge. The Korean version is rooted in college life, late nights, art studios, friend group drama, impulsive decisions. That chaotic, emotionally messy 20s vibe is the whole point. But the Japanese version moves everything to Kamakura, a quiet seaside town. The characters are young professionals, not students, which instantly adds a more reflective, slower-paced energy. There's less noise, literally and emotionally.
어디 꽂혀도 상관없으니까 가볍게. 안 자고 뭐해? 지금?
And then there's the male lead. Korean Jae-yeon, played by Song Kang, is the ultimate red flag. He's charming, smooth, but closed off. Half the time Nabi doesn't know what he's thinking, and honestly, neither do we. Song Kang plays him like a mystery you'll never fully solve, which keeps you hooked but also frustrated. Now compare that to Ren in the Japanese version. He's not slick, not manipulative, he actually wears his heart on his sleeve. You can read what he's feeling just by looking at him. Loneliness, hesitation, vulnerability. He's way more open emotionally, even if he's shy and awkward about it. And that makes his dynamic with Miu completely different. Instead of Nabi spiraling because she can't figure Jae-yeon out, Miu is confronted with someone who's almost too transparent, and she has to decide if she's ready to meet him in that same honesty. Miu herself is also calmer than Nabi. She's not stumbling into bad choices with her eyes closed. She's aware, guarded, and more thoughtful about what she's doing. Their connection feels hesitant, subtle, and a little fragile. It's less toxic roller coaster and more quiet tug of war. And this is where fans completely split. For some, the Japanese version is a clear upgrade. They say it fixes what people hated most about the Korean Nevertheless, that ending. In the Korean version, almost everyone agreed Nabi and Jae-yeon were heading straight into the most toxic relationship ever. But in the Japanese take, viewers felt the leads actually grew, made each other better, and then chose to be together. That made the story feel more realistic, more grounded, and way less toxic. But others? They think that fix came at a price. By smoothing out the chaos and stripping away that messy push and pull, the Japanese version just doesn't deliver the same fiery tension. The unpredictability, the frustration, the addictive drama, gone. And for a lot of fans, that was the whole point of Nevertheless in the first place. The mess. The thrill of watching a love story that was never really meant to be one. That frustrating but irresistible dynamic is what kept people glued to the screen. Without it, some say the remake feels a little too safe. So, with all these changes, can we even call the Japanese Nevertheless a remake? Honestly, it feels more like a reimagination. But here's the real question. Did it make the story better, or did it strip away the very thing that made it unforgettable? So, another K-drama we've got to talk about, and honestly, the big reason this whole video exists is the Japanese version of Marry My Husband.
なんでどこにでも現れるんですか？これが友達のすることなの！
お前のせいで俺の人生が失敗したんだよ！
Unlike Nevertheless, which was always kind of polarizing, the Korean Marry My Husband blew up immediately. The setup alone is peak K-drama chaos.
어떻게 된 거예요? 여기가 어디죠?
Kang Ji-won, played by Park Min-young, is stuck in a miserable marriage, finds out her husband is cheating on her with her best friend, and on top of that, she's battling cancer. Then she dies, only to wake up 10 years earlier with a second chance to rewrite her life, find real love, and of course, serve up revenge. The Korean version goes all in on spectacle and revenge. Ji-won starts as a victim, but transforms into this bold, fiery woman taking her life back. Park Min-young makes her magnetic to watch, whether she's roasting her fake best friend, throwing shade at class reunions, or dropping those ice-cold lines that make you cheer at the screen. Her arc is big, dramatic, and confrontation-heavy. Fans loved seeing her go off, though some admitted it leaned a little too hard into classic K-drama cliches, dragging out those aha moments for extra drama. Now, the Japanese reimagination takes a totally different path. Ji-won becomes Misa Kobe, played by Koshiba Fuka, and instead of snapping back with rage, her story is about slowly rebuilding herself. She starts out fragile, submissive, completely broken, but grows through quiet, subtle changes, taking up running, shifting her style, reflecting on her own mistakes. Her revenge is less about fireworks and more about emotional healing. The male leads really show the stylistic split. In Korea, we get Yoo Ji-hyuk, played by Na In-woo, who doesn't even show up until later. He's warm, loyal, people call him puppy-like, but sometimes he's almost too subdued. The slow burn romance works, but for some fans, it felt like more of a side plot than a real emotional core. Japan, on the other hand, brings in Suzuki Wataru, played by Satoh Takeru, much earlier, and makes him the emotional anchor of the story. He's lonely, a little awkward, but completely sincere, sharing quiet dinners, opening up in vulnerable moments, and showing love through small, intentional gestures. Fans really connected with this take. Many even felt Wataru and Misa's chemistry was sweeter, more natural, and honestly deeper than the Korean pairing. With the Japanese version, you're not just waiting for the revenge, you're also rooting for the chance at a second shot at love. And then, of course, the villains. Korea goes full makjang with Ji-won's cheating husband, Park Min-hwan, and fake bestie, Jung Soo-min. He's pathetic, abusive, and fragile in the worst ways. She's obsessive, manipulative, and bitter. They're completely unhinged, but that's the fun of it. You love to hate them. Every step toward their downfall feels deliciously cathartic, and honestly, their chaos carries the show. Japan dials that chaos way down. Misa's husband Tomoya and friend Reina are still toxic, but they're more human. Reina is possessive and quietly venomous. Tomoya is weak and ego-driven. Their cruelty comes less from cartoon evil and more from insecurity and trauma. Some fans found that scarier because it felt like toxicity you could actually run into in real life, but others thought it was too soft. Without the over-the-top villains, the revenge just didn't pack the same punch. And that's where the split happens again. The Korean version gave us the big highs, the fiery heroine and villains you can't wait to watch crash and burn. The Japanese version gave us quieter, more psychologically grounded characters that felt real, but also heavier, slower, and less cathartic. Now, that's the big question. Do you want revenge as pure entertainment, with villains so outrageous you cheer at every downfall? Or do you want revenge as emotional healing, where the characters feel real, messy, and maybe a little too close to home? Was the Japanese version an upgrade, with its grounded realism and emotional depth? Or was it a downgrade, stripping away the fiery chaos that made the Korean version so addictive? But here's the thing. we can't just stop at these two dramas. Nevertheless, and Marry My Husband are only the latest examples in a much bigger pattern. Korea and Japan have been remaking each other's stories for years. Sometimes it's Korea adapting Japanese manga into mega-hit K-dramas, and other times it's Japan reimagining Korean blockbusters for their own audience. But what's really interesting isn't just that they're remaking each other's work, it's how they're doing it. Because at the end of the day, it boils down to cultural storytelling. And honestly, here's where things get interesting. Some fans these days actually say they prefer J-dramas over K-dramas. Why? Because as K-dramas went global, they started leaning harder into spectacle. Flashy tropes, big emotions, glossy production, all designed to hook massive audiences. That's what made K-dramas explode worldwide, but for some people, it also made them feel a little polished, maybe even predictable. J-dramas, meanwhile, never really chased that same global spotlight. They stuck to their roots, and that gives them an identity and authenticity that feels refreshing, like they haven't been globalized out of their own style. Korean dramas tend to go big, the pacing is fast, the conflicts are dramatic, and the characters often live in extremes, whether it's villains you can't wait to see burn, or love interests who make you second-guess everything they say. That's the energy that fuels K-drama fandoms worldwide. Japanese dramas, on the other hand, usually pull in the opposite direction. Instead of dragging you through every high and low, they give you space to sit with the quiet moments. And for a lot of fans, that makes the stories feel more grounded, more human, and sometimes even more relatable. So, upgrade, downgrade, or total disaster? Be honest, because if you've watched both versions, you definitely have an opinion. Drop it in the comments. I'm ready to see some hot takes. So, yeah, whether you think these remakes are upgrades or downgrades really comes down to what kind of drama fan you are. But either way, one thing's clear. It's the actors who make these stories hit as hard as they do. And if you want to know the actors who turned K-dramas into a worldwide obsession, don't miss my top 100 K-drama actors list. Click here to watch.